for this. How am I going to do it? There's equity partners. There's debt partners. There's credit partners. There's seller financing. There's so many different ways to get the deal done. There really is no excuse to not getting the deal done, but not having funding is the biggest excuse that most people use to not getting a deal done. It's out there. And it's all about the relationship. Managing the asset. Do you guys manage the asset? 4 units is very easy to manage, actually 3. But when you get into bigger asset acquisitions and they are further away, within, I would say further than probably an hour and a half to 2 hours, you're going to have a team in place. You're going to have property management in place. What kind of a property management team do you hire? Actually, Kevin, that's walking to the back of the room right now, is in property management. I just met him for the first time tonight. He is on the mechanical side of property management. So there's 2 different sides of property management. You're going to have the manager that manages the asset, who also might be responsible for the mechanicals and the structure and rehabilitation and so on and so forth. We've put all the systems in place to be able to deal with that. I was able to go away this past week, and I just talked to my manager on the way here that 2 more of our homes were renovated and put out on the open market. But I didn't have to go down there. In fact, I haven't been down there in 3 months. I'm going down Monday and Tuesday of this coming week. I usually go down to visit the properties once a quarter. That's pretty awesome. But it took a year to a year and a half to train my team to do what I needed them to do, how I needed them to do it, the way I needed them to do it, as long as I respected them and didn't step over their toes. And it all goes down to the way that you treat people. And now they have my back, but I always have theirs. And then running your business as a business. Most of us that came from corporate world or were artists, or as I said, I was a hairdresser. I wasn't in corporate America, but I certainly worked in a salon. But my life consisted of being behind a chair with a pair of scissors and a comb. That was my business. I never ran a business. I didn't know what it meant to have a business plan and to have systems in place, and I had no idea what all that meant. I got so excited about real estate, and everybody just said, go get the deal, go find the deal. When you get the deal, buy it and rehab it and flip it and then sell it and then take the check. But they didn't go over that it's actually a business. It has to be treated like a business. But what if you've never run a business? Well, we have the systems, we have the business plans, we have the people around us to support us on our teams to show you how to treat it as a business. That's what surrounding yourself with the team is all about. You have to understand these markets. I keep talking about these markets. There are markets in every state, every country, every county, every city that somewhere is emerging, stabilized, or declining. And I think those 3 speak for themselves. Somewhere in the United States at any given time, there is a market that is emerging, stabilized, or declining. This is on the way to our 168-unit property in Fort Mitchell, Alabama. This is actually the road driving into the property. When you see new infrastructure, roadways, utilities going in, new home development going up, things that our eye are not normally trained to take notice of, we go, oh, there's a new sign there. That's about the extent of it. Now, when you start seeing road infrastructure, bridges, highways, that is a 5 to 10-year plan of the city, the state, of an emerging market. Fort Mitchell, Alabama, and Columbus, Georgia was the #1 small city emerging market in 2009. That's why we bought there. It's right across the river from Fort Benning, Georgia, which actually happens to be where both my my children trained at basic, but it's the largest military reservation in the country. So military is a huge market. That's an emerging market. A stabilized market, for example, would be the property that we have down in Martinsville, Virginia. The income is median. There's not a lot of new jobs coming in. There's a huge waiting list on rentals. So it's stabilized. But every market at some point in time is going to go through an emerging market or a declining market or a stabilized market. It's your job to do the due diligence to figure that out. We'll go over it this weekend. Or declining. A declining market is obviously not a market you want to be in. What happened up in Michigan? In Detroit? Was that emerging, stabilized, or declining? Declining. What's happening now? Is it coming back? So next I'm going to show you, this is what you need to understand. Okay, you have a buyer's market 1, buyer's market 2, seller's market 1, and a seller's market 2, right? So let's say that Michigan, Detroit, hit way down here. And everybody said, there's no way that I'm going to invest in Detroit. And what we call vulture buyers, vulture investors, they sat on the sidelines watching because they knew that every savvy investor knows that every market is going to do what? It's going to emerge, it's going to stabilize, and it's going to decline. You may not know when, but it will always come back. It may not ever come back to the same level. It may go above or it may go back. And if you look at where we are now, will we ever go back now to where we were in 2004, 5, and 6? No, probably not ever. Will we see 25 to 30% appreciation? Do I know that for a fact? No, but probably not. They're saying right now that locally, if we can get a 5 to 6% annual appreciation, right now, today, that's what the Barron's was reporting, then we're doing really good. 5 to 6% today across the country. They're saying that that's really good. So in Detroit, everybody else is running from it, but yet it's right here at the bottom. Well, what is BM2? Buyer's market. What should you be doing as an investor when the market hits the bottom? Buying. Why is that? So that you can ride the appreciation up. So that once you hit the top, you can sell for profit or transfer into a 1031 exchange, like-kind property.
Can we ask a question?
Absolutely.
I just want to say a but. You can knock me down, but,
I don't knock anybody down, I pick everybody up.
the but for Detroit.
I'm using that as an example. I'm using that as an example only.
Because, I almost got something over there that I ran away. The thing is that, you're also looking at, what about the employment situation for them there?
It's a great question. Can I stop you for 1 minute?
Yeah.
What is, she just gave you the answer. I'm going to follow it up now with the rest of the sentence. The number one factor that drives a market is employment. Employment. So, I know of a lot of investors too that were offered by some very big investors a done-for-you kit. We'll give you the property in Detroit for $8,000, we'll rehab it for you, we'll property manage it for you, and we'll put a tenant into it, and you don't have to do anything. Anybody heard of those? Whether it was in Detroit or Hawaii or Frederick, Maryland, or Silver Spring, Maryland, or Arlington, Virginia, is that possible? It's possible. Is it realistic? No. No. Any time that you take your hands off of your asset and put it totally into the hands of someone else, you lose control. Now, I've heard of the done it for you. And I'm going to be blunt. Can I be blunt? I want it all done for me. I don't want to have to do it. I don't want to have to go collect rent. Wah, 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 wah. Lazy. That is the lazy investor's way. If you don't put into it what you want to get out of it, you won't get out of it what you put into it. How can you expect to allow someone else to sell you an asset sight unseen, in a sight unseen town, in a sight unseen neighborhood, with a sight unseen management company, with a sight unseen tenant, and they're going to send you a check every month? Do you really think it will work? That's the question. No. I know 5 people that have invested between Detroit and 2 in Hawaii, and they're bankrupt. They took their life savings to do that exact done-for-you strategy. Investing takes work. You have to do your homework. If it was that easy, everybody would be doing it. What was your name again? Charlene, did I answer your question? To piggyback on that, Detroit is just one market that I was using as an example. Let's take Baltimore City. I love Baltimore. You have Baltimore City and Baltimore County. Anybody here invest in Baltimore? Anybody here understand that Baltimore is truly block by block? Right? It is block by block. Is Baltimore City a great city to invest in? Yes. Yes, absolutely. It's emerging unlike you could never believe. It is. I'm watching the empowerment zone. It's blocks away from my building. My building's going to triple in probably a couple of years because of this. But I'm watching it happen. But take me 3 or 4, 5 or 6 blocks over one way. No, I won't go there. You've got to know your market. It's so important to understand the market and know where you are in that market. Sellers 1, seller 2, buyers 2, or buyer 1. What do you think is the best market to buy in? Between 1 and 2. But there's no crystal ball to know truly when the market's coming down and when you've hit the bottom. There's a lot of speculation. Oh, we've hit the bottom. Well, I can tell you Manassas, Virginia hit the bottom a lot quicker and a lot faster than, Montgomery County, Maryland, for example. So you just need to know your market. Are you ever going to have your pulse on it 100%? Probably not, but that's okay. You just need to have a good idea of where it is. Historical market cycles. Does anyone here believe that what happened to us between 2006 until now was just something random that happened, or do you think it was a cycle? Neither? It's a cycle. Part of the 40-year generational cycle, which is part of an 80 New Year economy cycle. We have spending and productivity cycles. We have demographic cycles. We have technology and science cycles. Ever heard that word, oh, history is repeating itself? But why didn't we learn from it? Anybody know or remember what happened 80 years ago? It was the Great Depression. It was the Great Depression. What happened after the 10 years immediately following the Great Depression?
Economic boom.
What?
Economic growth.
Economic growth? Were you going to say something?
You had a war in between also.
A war in between? Okay.
Industrial revolution.
2 wars, actually.
The 10 years preceding, or the 10 years following the Great Depression, there were more entrepreneurial millionaires made than any other time in our country's history. If we just went through the Great Recession and you follow economically everything that has been happening, What do you think is poised to be happening over the next 10 years in our country? A decade of entrepreneurial millionaires. Are you going to be one of them? Because real estate is where it's at, folks. Anybody heard the name Warren Buffett? I mean, I just throw his name out there because he's so humble. But if you look at a lot of the self-made millionaires, a lot of the very wealthy, very successful people in our country, a lot of it is through other businesses, but most of it is through real estate investments. Warren Buffett owns Clayton Homes. Clayton Homes manufactures mobile homes. He owns them. He owns Clayton Homes, the largest manufacturer of mobile homes in the country. Anybody heard of Court Furniture Rental?
Yes.
He owns that. Just business decisions. So the local market, this is what we were talking about. What are the empowerment zones, the enterprise zones? Where is the city infusing money, or the county infusing money? And all of this is available on Google. Google. Google is absolutely fantastic. Most of all of the research that we do before we ever even go to look at a property, we find on Google. This happens to be Baltimore City. This was the empowerment zone information, the low-income housing tax credits that were available, the different green initiatives that the city was offering, and the different types of state grants, city grants, and local grants and programs that they were offering. There's all different types of grants and income tax credits and CDC building credits, historical tax credits. You just have to simply Google them and do your research, but they all exist. And a lot of this information I actually learned after we had bought the property, as I learned after we had bought the property in Baltimore City that I was 2 blocks outside of the empowerment zone. One of my lessons learned. Wasn't a lot of the empowerment zone credits they were giving is to people who were employing for businesses and things like that. So it wasn't that it was really going to affect us that much anyway. But I thought, wow, what are the odds that I'd be just 2 blocks outside of it? There's so much news and media that we hear, and you have to be very, very careful about what it is that you're listening to in the news and media, because I will tell you from friends that I know that are in news and media, they tell you only what they want you to hear. You need to do the research yourself. Anybody consistently hear on news and TV about the doom and gloom of the real estate market? Or the doom and gloom from people that oftentimes share your same last name. Oh, I can't believe you're going to another one of those real estate events. Why in the world would anybody be investing in real estate right now? You're absolutely crazy. Anybody know what the rates are right now? In the 3s. In the 3s. It's crazy. It's like we should all be on a buying frenzy. This is going to affect us where we are right now until approximately 2023. It's a long time, guys. It's a long time to invest and profit and be able to become financially free. In the beginning of the boom, the downturn, a lot of the financial companies were saying you need to allocate assets as defensive strategies. But it was all a big misnomer. What you need to understand is that there are major peaks in our economy and in the stock market every 40 years. That was that graph that I just showed you. Every 40 years, there is a cycle. So they say to hold your cash in safe investments. Put them into bonds, put them into T-bills, put them into the stock market. Has the stock market done really well the last 10 years? How many of you trust to put your money into our stock market right now? Anybody? Why not? It what?
You got limited control.
Got limited control. What about the banks? CDs. Oh yeah. 0.0075% return. Now we're rocking. But it's safe, right? I mean, it's a 6-month CD. It's safe. Or you can invest in real estate. wisely when you purchase, so you know that you're going to receive a respectable rate of return that's going to provide you with passive income for the rest of your life. This economy that we are in right now is a networking economy. So that means as investors, you need to be out there networking as much as you can. It's about specializing. It's about personalizing. It's about customizing. It's about being in narrow focused niches, not having your hands into too many things at one time. And it's about doing business face to face. It's about doing business to business. Gone are the days that we sit and hide behind this thing we call a laptop or a computer right here. We've lost touch with society. We've lost touch with people to go up and be able to shake their hand and say, hey, Charlie, I'd love to take you out for lunch. Will you meet me on Tuesday at 12 o'clock? Why? Because we're too busy doing the other stuff. We've forgotten as people how to connect, how to network. We can sit in a room of 200 and 300 people, knee to knee, for 8 hours. I was just in Vegas at a seminar like this. And it was day 3 before I even met the people next to me. Because we were taking down so many notes, and I'm a huge networker. But it happens. Christian, do you know his name?
No.
Jim, do you know her name? Do you know what she does?
She's the resident.
Why, I understand that.
But beyond that, no.
Right. So what are you going to do differently, even in a room like this at the District 3? To step outside of your comfort zone and shake the hand of someone who's next to you, because Kathy, you don't know who Charlie is. I know. But Charlie, right. But do you really know who he is and the difference that he can make in your life? You don't know. And I find it interesting that we will spend so much time and money on our education and going to college, but yet we've got so much knowledge and wealth right here if we just take the time to get to learn who's around us. What's more important is we're all like-minded. We all want the same thing. We all want to be investors. You got to specialize in what it is that you do. I specialize in multi-unit properties. That's what I do. I could do a lot of other things. I've done a lot of other things, but that's what I specialize in. Personalization. We personalize so many things for our residents. I'm not saying I go above and beyond and pull out the red carpet, but I will accommodate them. I care about them. I find out which ways they like to communicate via phone, email, or text, and I make sure I communicate with them that way. We'll personalize little gifts for them or for the kids to let them know that we care. And it's about customization. That's where we're at right now. This is the mindset that you need to be thinking of. Whose life can I make a difference in today? What can I do differently to profoundly impact the life of another human being? Miss Tammy, I'm not going to get paid until next Friday. It's after the 5th. Well, they all know because I've taught them. Rent's late. Rent's due on the 5th. Rent's due on the 1st. Late on the 5th. You don't pay on the 6th, you get a mandatory late fee, and I'm in court on the 11th or 12th. Period. Miss Tammy, I don't want to get hit with the late fee. Well, I appreciate you communicating that with me. I appreciate you letting me know. That means more to me than anything. For the first time, I will be more than happy to let it go. And I did. A couple months later, payday fell a couple months behind. And she texted me and she said, Miss Tammy, I know I'm going to be late. How much do I owe you? And I honored my word and I told her. But that respect is because we work with them, we personalize, we communicate, and that's what this business is all about. It's extraordinary. There's only one property that we manage, and that's our Baltimore property because it's here local, and it's because it's something that we chose to do. All of our other properties I have managers at, and I work with my managers on every other day. Sometimes a week or two will go by and I don't talk to them. But usually a couple times a week I will work with them. and I truly believe in doing business face-to-face or business-to-business. I drove 5.5 hours one way to Bluefield, West Virginia to hand in a 3-ring binder property package for a bank to get a loan on an 84 unit down in Martinsville, Virginia that I wanted. The bank said to me, just email the stuff over. How many of you would have just emailed it? Come on, be honest. How many of you would have just emailed it? It's okay. I drove it. 5.5 hours one way for a 30-minute meeting, and that got me the loan. I got the loan because of that. They couldn't believe that I was willing to go that far to bring them everything in a complete package, and I have that package, and I've systematized it, and I'll give it to you and show it to you how to use it over this weekend. It is extraordinary what that has done for me. They couldn't believe that I went all that way. It was an exhaustive day, let me tell you. A lot of stops, a lot of coffee, but I did it and I made it happen. And obviously I put everything in place and I made sure that I presented it really, really nice. But they told me after the fact that the reason they truly gave me that loan is a local small community bank, which we'll talk about this weekend as well, why we don't use Bank of America and Wells Fargo, the big banks, is because of that. The relationship was established in that moment of meeting them face to face. It was absolutely powerful. Susan, one of my students from a couple years ago, Tammy, I just want to thank you for helping me succeed in my business step by step. Your passion and your experience, coupled with your eagerness to educate and share your knowledge, moves me forward with confidence, armed with the tools I need. This means more to me than I can express. I can't wait to dive into the information you provided so that I can put more of your techniques into practice. You have forever changed my life and impacted the future of my family. It took Susan and her sister, Karen, a little bit longer to get started because they had things going on in their life, but the last that I heard, they're getting ready to close on a 45 unit up in Pennsylvania. So I'm very, very happy for them. One of the other things that you need, just as I talked about going to the bank, is credibility. Because you are playing in a different arena. As they told me so long ago, it's the big boys game. So you need to separate yourself. How do we do that? Well, what if I don't have all the experience in the world? What if I don't have 100 units? What if I only have 4 units? We put together a credibility portfolio. I have all of that ready for you. We're going to go over it this weekend. And it is a true testament to part of your business plan. It's like your resume, if you would. So I had to sit there and make a decision, and I wanted to put this up there. If I had 10 units, 10 single-family units, or 10 units in a building, which would you prefer? How many would prefer 10 single units? Bringing in the same income. Okay, fair enough. How many would prefer a building with 10 units? Okay. Those of you that would prefer 10 single units, will you share with me what it is about 10 single units that you prefer? Christian.
I'd probably say you probably have diversity, probably be in different markets, maybe even different counties, depending upon the strength there is. Like you mentioned before, that there was a big difference between Montgomery County versus, I think, someplace in Virginia or not. So it depends upon what your comfort level is. Maybe some might be by the beach, somebody might be by a metro.
Right.
Okay. Some might be a condo, some might be a single family or a townhouse. So depends upon what you think is good for your diversity
Right.
portfolio.
Great answer. I can't see your name.
Bobby,
Bobby,
I'm sorry.
what is it about 10 singles that you would prefer over a building?
I had experience on a Saturday, last Saturday. This lady, and she just moved in the area. She was looking for apartment to purchase.
A single
A
apartment?
single apartment to purchase for herself. And I thought about it. She wasn't looking for rent. She said she would take rent, but she said she's looking for something to buy. And it didn't dawn on me because I had something else that popped up that I wasn't expecting. But what got me was that if I would have had just a couple apartments available, one of them would have been sold, or maybe rent it out for a while, that could, help increase, some revenue.
Right. Both great answers. There's no wrong and there's no right way. Can I share with you why I feel I prefer the building? Can I share that with you? Something to think about. 10 single-family units generating $1,000 a month, that's $10,000. Or 10 units generating $1,000 a month, that's $10,000 in the building. How many roofs am I responsible for here?
One.
How many?
10.
10. How many roofs am I responsible for here?
One.
Reason number 1, repair and maintenance. Let's talk about diversity. You're one owner, one investor, and you have 10 units in your portfolio, and they happen to be spread out. How much time will it take you to manage 10 properties all throughout different areas versus one building and one centralized location? I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I'm just saying it's something to think about. I was taught to invest in single-family homes, to flip, to rehab, and to hold. Until you have to drive an hour and a half one way to go put a pee trap on a toilet or on a sink, or you drive an hour one way and you do the same thing over here, but it's all contained, it makes all the difference in the world. So what I'm saying is your investment strategy has to be unique to exactly what it is that you want. I soon realized that it is much more economical and it makes much more sense to own 10 units in one building versus 10 units in separate areas, because you also have 10 different yards you have to take care of, 10 different HVAC systems you have to take care of. And again, I'm not saying it's wrong, I'm not saying it's right. What is your preference? And that's something you need to think about as you're investing, because I have friends that say, well, I'm a multi-unit investor. I own 50 units, separate units, located throughout several different states. There's nothing wrong with that if that's the criteria you choose. For me, I would rather have more units in one centralized location to make it much more economical. Does that make sense? I can tell you it's much easier. This is only half, actually this is about a quarter of our building in Baltimore. 25,000 square feet. 18, you guys are gonna see it Sunday morning. Yeah. But half of it is renovated, the other half, one unit sustained a fire, and we haven't renovated that yet. And so everybody this weekend is gonna meet me at the building. Sunday morning, I'm going to give you a rehab sheet, because I'm actually getting ready to start the rehab on 13,000 square feet. So I'm going to let you guys walk in and see it the way that we saw it when we took over, and actually do a full scope on it. Cool?
Yeah.
Here's my other property down in Martinsville, Virginia. Southwest Virginia, almost to the mountains of West Virginia, 30 miles north of Greensboro. How many of you have ever seen a mobile home?
Yep.
How many of you have ever been in a mobile home? Anybody ever lived in a mobile home? This is where I ching. This is where the money is, folks. Right here. I'm going to show you why. If we take the 4-unit that Clinton and Tanisha bought, you guys remember how much it was? You gotta start being good at remembering numbers. How much? 370 divided by 4. How much per unit? $1,300? $13,000? No. How much is each? How much did they buy each unit for? The whole building was 370. 92,500. And how many bedrooms in each one? 2 bedroom, 1 bath? 2 bedroom, 1 bath. 92,500. Guess what I just bought a 2 bedroom, 1 bath for last week? Mobile home. 2,000. Dollars.
What do you get for that?
$425 a month. I'll put 5,000 into it and rehab it.
So
It's a
seven
small
grand-
two-bedroom, it's a small two-bedroom, one bath.
$7,000 and $425 a month.
So how many months does it take to pay off that 7,000? 425 a month, I don't know what the months are.
13 or 14.
How many?
That ain't true.
18 months, that investment is totally paid off. How many months, I'm sorry, years will it take to pay off the 4-unit? You have a 30-year mortgage, right? Again, guys, this is not good or bad. I'm sharing with you a completely different investment strategy. A completely different investment strategy. Because most people have never heard of mobile home living. We're very jaded here in the bigger cities. You get 60 miles, 90 miles outside of DC, head south and southwest. It is the way America lives. A 3-bedroom, 2-bath mobile home, about 15 to 18,000, 1,000 square foot. It rents for the exact same rent as the 3-bedroom apartment down the street. But in a mobile home, do they have anybody above them or below them?
No.
Do they have anybody, you see how they have their own parking space and their own little yard? So it's like living single family, right? So 84 units, gross effective income, GEI, year one was $204,579 from what most folks call the trailer park. The trailer park. Thou shalt not say trailer park, thou shalt say mobile home community. Trailers move up and down the highway on wheels. Our expenses are $94,000 a year. They were in the first year. Our net operating income was $109,976,000 times 10% equals a value of what? $1,000,009. Okay? At a 10 cap. We got the property, I got the property for $775,000. So did I buy it right?
Yeah.
Yes, but the expenses were high. Why? Because the owner was paying, this is all public water, public sewer through here, was not individually metered. It had one meter. The owner was paying all the water. The water for that property was $65,000 a year. Anybody want to pay a $65,000 a year water bill? I didn't either. It was an immediate value add that I saw that no other buyer saw when looking at the property and analyzing it, because I learned immediately that it was public utilities. And I learned and knew off of public utilities I could sub-meter. Some properties you can and some properties you can't. If it's well and septic, you can sub-meter privately. It's a lot harder to do. Usually we don't sub-meter on well and septic, but we will sub-meter on public. It costs $50,000 to sub-meter. But in that 1 year after sub-metering, and I did it within 2 months of ownership, we cut our water bill to zero. Zero. Why? Because every resident now has a meter in front of their home, and I increased their rent $52 a month because now they have to pay water and sewer. I'm sorry, I increased their rent because it came off of my book. I was paying all the water, and now I'm not paying it. So their rent, theoretically, was increased by $52 a month because now they're paying for water, not me.
You didn't decrease the amount they were paying you?
No.
Oh.
Sorry for what?
And so we gave, and we'll go into it more this weekend, how I went through the process. So year two, I don't have year two. Year three, our NOI, $238,585. Year 5, we're in year 4 right now. Year 5, 303,294, probably be a little bit better than that in year 5. We'll be able to refinance the property and take cash out if we want and move on and buy another property. I haven't been down to this property in 3 months. I talk to my manager all the time. I will go down there. But if you were to drive through this, most people would just simply say it's another trailer park. It is a mobile home community. But most people have no idea that a mobile home community generates that kind of income. One mobile home community can set you completely financially free. And they're all over the country. Down on the eastern shore of Maryland, where we have a community down there, I had an owner who just went through a very, very, very bitter divorce. And I'm meeting with him next week. He's got 18 units that he's desperate to sell. 100% occupied, not a couple miles from where our property is down there. And he said he drove over and looked at our community and saw all the work that we had done to it and was very impressed because he knew what it was that we had to deal with. We got hit by Hurricane Sandy, lost quite a few homes in that. It's been one thing after another. But he said, I know what you've been through and I wanted to give you first dibs. This is the secret to your market. It's not for sale. It's not listed. He's a realtor with Long & Foster. It's not even listed on the MLS. No one knows about it. He wants to sell it under the radar because he is a human being, even though he is a realtor. And he wants to give it to someone so he doesn't have to list it, so he doesn't have to pay the commissions, right? And so he's trying to save money, plus he's going through a bitter divorce. So he literally has didn't call me, called my manager after he drove through the property. She and I are going to go look at it. Why? Because I need to know if she can manage it. It's 18 more units. And we'll probably be able to pick it up for very, very little. Why? Because he's motivated. He's going through a bitter divorce, and his wife's going to get half of everything. He's going to give her the least amount that he can. It's just the reality. That's a motivated seller. Well, how do you find these properties? They don't just appear every single day, but they appear all the time. So the value, ERG, this is called ERG in commercial real estate. Formula you want to know. The value equals your income divided by your return. You want to know what the return is? It's your income times your value. So I shared this, I got a little ahead of myself, but this is what the water was like down in Martinsville. It was just free flowing. Everybody had whatever use of water that they wanted. If there was a toilet leak, nobody said anything about it. Washing their cars, water main busts, breaks in the T's. Nobody was ever saying anything. Well, now we catch every single leak that you could possibly imagine. Everywhere, because we know. We monitor. The other thing that we do, for example, down on the eastern shore, we're on well and septic, and the water table on the eastern shore is very, very high because we're 28 miles inland from Ocean City, Maryland. Is down there, we do some old school things. For example, we put yeast, little 69-cent brewer's yeast. We pour it into the septic systems every 3 months. That bacteria eats up a lot of the stuff that goes through there, and our plumbing bills have gone way down because of a 69-cent pack of yeast. Absolutely fascinating. We're going to go over more of this, what the analyzing rule of thumb is. But bottom line is your expenses, once you know what the actual expenses are or the rule of thumb expenses are, and you know what the income is that's being generated, you can do a very quick down and dirty analysis of what the property's worth. And then you have to decide, is it worth the risk or what is the reward? Safe investments are a return of 5%, 4 to 5%. Those are a lot of your very high-end luxury Class A properties, and the returns are anywhere from 3 to 5%. Very low risk on those properties, but they're also going to get a low reward. The average investment is a return of a 10% cap. We invest anywhere from 10 to 13%. You get into the risky investments of 20%, there's a huge risk, but what also comes with that huge risk? A very high reward. So the more risk you're willing to take, the greater the reward. If you do your homework, you are surrounded by a great team, and you know what it is that you're getting yourself into. And I already kind of went over this. Why did we choose Fort Benning, Georgia? I shared with you, it was an emerging market. It's part of BRAC. That's the military. It's called Base Realignment Closures. Anybody heard of the military base realignment closures that were going on? We had a motivated seller. It was an underperforming property. It was only 40% vacant, and it had unbelievable value adds. We were able to pick this property up on what is called a master lease, rent to own. We rented the property, we leased the property for 5 years to increase the value and the occupancy on the property because no bank would give us a loan. So the owner agreed they would keep the loan in their name. We pay the mortgage payments every month. We rented, we still gave him a substantial down payment that if we fail, he gets, we lose. And after 5 years, our goal is to get the occupancy up to such a level and stabilized. The bank was very open with us, and we were open with them. We told them all about it. They said, that sounds fantastic, and they agreed to allow us to do it. We're in year 5 and getting ready to refinance that property with the same bank as the seller had. It's awesome.
What is your occupancy now?
85%. We went from 40, like 38, now we're up to right around 89, 90.
Is that, I mean, sometimes you can never get at 100%. Is that considered, let's say, as good as you can make it?
Yeah, it's a great question. I don't know of any property, I don't know of any investor truly in the multi-unit that has ever gone to 100%. Now, I can sit here and tell you my buildings are 100%. It's such a great question. There's 2 types of vacancy. Write these down. Physical and economic. Physical vacancy is what most people will refer to when they say, oh, we're 100% occupied. You're 100% physically occupied. Do you think there's ever a day where a landlord doesn't receive rent on the 1st or the 5th or the 10th and they have to then go do an eviction and months go by? That's called economic vacancy. So I truly believe you are always at some point vacant, or you have some level of vacancy. You should ideally hover between 95 and 97%, ideally. You always want to have a little bit of room for growth. And of course, the more units you have, the probability of you being that occupied are very slim, because there's constant turnover. Constant. It just happens. Debbie, you guys are going to meet Debbie on Saturday morning. I'm bringing her in to interview her. Her story is absolutely extraordinary. She bought a property in Richmond. She worked for corporate America, was terrified to let go. She finally, after 3 years of us knowing each other, she finally let go. And I held her hand all the way through this acquisition down in Richmond. And she's the one that got it occupied and is 100% occupied, and now just got her loan done. And she's going to share her story on Saturday. Housing is currently down 25 to 30%. It's also down 50, 55, 60% in other markets. This is where I said you need to know your markets. Florida, Arizona, Nevada, Michigan saw even greater downturn. Some of those markets 65 to 90%. The rental market is increasing because these residential properties will continue to deflate. This is why knowing your market is so important. Your investment strategy should consist of acquiring cash flowing assets, especially in multi-unit real estate, that are going to provide you with what? Passive income. To create what? Financial freedom. These are the sweet spots. We're going to go more in depth. I am what they call a due diligence fanatic. When it comes to investing in the property, I probably do more homework, research, and due diligence on-site and off-site because of different things that I've learned along the way. There are certain areas you want to look at the different types of population. You don't want to be, for example, and I can't remember the name of the town, it was in Kansas, we saw a really good deal. We learned that the population was 5,000. Well, no wonder it's a really great deal. You know, the population was 5,000. Can you imagine trying to rent to only, you know, small town of 5,000? So demographics are very important. What are the states, you know, that you want to invest in? What are the states that are hot? I can tell you Alabama, Georgia, North Carolina, South Carolina, Texas, Northern Florida, West Virginia, Maryland, Pennsylvania, Tennessee are really, really hot right now. I also have tightened up my market, and I will not be doing any more, and I shouldn't say never. Currently, I can tell you I'm not going to be going down into Alabama or Texas or west of the Appalachian because it's just too hard to get to it. Between the cost of airfare, the cost of renting a car, the cost of hotel, every month, every 2 weeks when you first take over, it's just a lot. Is it wrong? No. We have a huge property there. It's just a lot more work. I've learned there's so many more deals within 5-6 hours of driving that you can get to. And it's so much easier to do that. Yes?
Yes, when you talk about states, particularly like Georgia, North Carolina, you talk about the entire state or just
Yes.
certain sections?
The entire state.
Okay.
These states are thriving
Yeah.
right now. In fact, I wouldn't even go anywhere near Texas right now because it's number 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 on the 100 top cities and small cities on any index that you look at. And because of that, that means that if they're number 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, they've already peaked. They're at the top of the market. So you're trying to come in and compete with all the other investors, the wannabe investors that are there. I personally prefer, and I'm going to show you over the weekend, where you go get these reports. The small city report, I like the smaller cities. They still have great demographics. I don't need to go into the really, really, really big cities. You know, I like the smaller cities.
So doesn't that kind of contradict what you said about going to Baltimore?
Baltimore is a small city. It's not Washington, D.C., Miami, San Francisco, Chicago. I guess maybe Baltimore might teeter. No, I don't know. Baltimore's really, no, it's not. It's a secondary. It's considered a small city. But I get what you're saying. And I guess it really is subjective on these charts.
Because I
You
would
know.
think, like, say, if you said something like Tyson's Corner is a small city, I can see that, but not Baltimore.
Need to have it.
But anyway, that's what works for you.
Yeah.
Well, it's the demographics too, and it's when you look at the report. Baltimore's actually considered a small city. Probably should be a big city, but it's actually considered a small city. The things that are the most important to look at, as I said, employment is what drives every single aspect of the market. What's healthcare like? What's pharmaceuticals like? What's going on with education, the local government, military, the largest employers? Is BRAC moving in or moving out? Are they closing bases? And these types of acquisitions and these types of markets, when you do your homework, guys, is substantial cash flow because you get to ride the markets up. And if you can go from a declining market into a stabilized market, into an appreciating market, you're talking 5 to 7, 10 years of growth, and it's just truly incredible what it can do for your financial freedom. So the first quarter 2013 vacancy rates are down, unit rents are up, average monthly rents are up, and this is basically an average across the entire United States. This is what they're seeing right now for those that are property owners. This is a group of my students down at our property in Martinsville, Virginia, where I actually take them for an entire weekend to be on site. I feel and I learned as an investor sitting in the chairs at the RIAs, going to all the boot camps, I could listen to the CDs auditorily, I could read the books visually, I could engage in the DVDs, but the way I learn is by touching, seeing, and feeling it. Getting my hands into the dirt, mixing it up, and seeing what makes these properties breathe. And that's exactly what we're going to be doing on Sunday. Baltimore is the closest property, so that's why we're going to the property on Sunday. And I'm going to open up the 9, maybe not the fire unit because it's still a little bit dangerous, but I will be opening up some of the other units and let you guys see what they look like and what we're getting ready to move into. So Dan up here, We were down for a big site visit in Lumberton, North Carolina. This was a bunch of the due diligence that we collected there. He ended up backing away from the property. It was probably the best decision he ever made to back away. There was just too much the seller wasn't disclosing. But needless to say, we have a lot of fun. We do a lot of on-site inspections, have a lot of fun at the property, just learning about what makes the property tick. These are the electric poles that a mobile home actually hooks up to. So step by step, you need to identify, as I said, your investment criteria. They need to be specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and timely, and you need to know your why. It's very important that you know your why. As I said, you must know your customers' resident needs. You must be a personalized provider. Understand the demographic cycles, and your team is everything. 50% of people's net worth is in real estate, and real estate is the single largest sector of our economy. And that doesn't tell you why it is so important to invest in real estate. As this deflation continues, these distressed properties, defaulted foreclosures will continue to surge residentially and commercially. Brian that was just here, Ginter, just told me of all the defaulted notes that are coming into their office on a daily basis, on a monthly basis. I'm going to go sit down and have lunch with him. I'm going to see what it is that I can find out, that I can bring back and share with everyone. People always need a place to rent as the deflation destroys their credit. Why? With the credit being destroyed, they can't rent. So the demographic trends favor multi-unit dwellings more than any other real estate research that they've done until 2023. So what do we want to do? Focus our energy on the cash flow. Karen is Susan's sister. They're getting ready to close on that 45 unit. I know we're getting a little close on time here. So let's recap. Consistent streams of income. Financing is easier. Banks prefer income-producing assets. You can force appreciation. Oh, I'm getting tongue-tied here. Force appreciation and value. We will go over that this weekend. How do you force the appreciation and the value of a property? Maintenance and repairs, and multiple value adds for the additional income. So the missing piece. There's only one missing piece. We talked about it early on. What separates the difference between what I did and what you're doing? Taking action. Right? That last piece of the puzzle. That's really all it is. I'm no different than anyone in this room. I'm no different. So Saturday and Sunday, this Saturday and Sunday, mark your calendar. Why? Because you need to reassess where you're at. You need to reassess now in your life today what it is that you're doing. You need to plan and prepare. Where are you going? What is your why? Why are you sitting here with me? What do you want? And are you willing to go get it? How hungry are you? Are you willing to educate and invest in yourself to make it happen? And how are you going to get into a position to seize these assets? Because when they fall fast and furious. How do you know how do you know what you need to do to be there to catch those assets when they fall? And as I said, your success is based on your action. So we're going to go through how to locate the properties, how to find the motivated sellers. It's exact, guys, it's current, and it's simplified. This is not difficult to do. Is there a lot of work involved? Yes. Absolutely. Step by step. What to say to the owners. How to deal with private money, credit partners, equity partners, commercial loan process, the relationships and the networking. Understanding the different types of community programs, the systems, the documents. How do you navigate the complexities and the specifics to work with a city, a town, or a county, especially if you don't know where they are? Marketing tactics to attract the quality residents. Dealing with screening the applicants. Dealing with approving the applicants. Working with your management company. How do you hire general contractors? We're going to actually go over that this weekend, especially on Sunday morning. How do you deal with the city, county, state, and federal offices? We definitely are going to be dealing with the city, because the city's had their eyes on me like a hawk because one of the units burnt. Now they're gonna be watching me like a hawk to make sure that every single permit is pulled in that building, and you guys will see why. We can't, not that we did cut corners, but more so now than ever when we open up this building, we're not gonna be able to take any chances at all. Those relationships are gonna be critical. We don't wanna jeopardize those relationships. All the documents that you need to work with contractors. Debbie just told me yesterday that a contractor that she hired down in Richmond, who she spoke so highly of, has decided to not do what he said he was going to do, and she just can't believe that after a couple of months, this great individual who said he was going to do all this work is now a contractor. It just happens all the time. It's so amazing to me. And how to do a rehab budget. You're always, I shouldn't say always, but most of the time you come in on very much over budget, anywhere from 10 to 30% over budget. Debbie actually, I'm going to interview her, how she actually came in on budget. It's pretty fascinating. So 4-unit, she did come in on budget, but she's got tremendous experience in her past with being a project manager, which I never had. And so it's fascinating to hear her story of what she did to make her rehab come in on budget. Absolutely, it was awesome. So this current downturn is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. It's uniquely rare. The real estate entrepreneurs who educate and invest in themselves, acquire and invest in multi-unit properties at cash flow will undoubtedly become the next multimillionaires this decade will see. So again, guys, this Sunday, 9 to 4, registrations at 8:30, Comfort Inn in Beltsville, right off of 95. As you can see, my home study course is up here. We're going to be going over that this weekend, and I'll share with you what is in that. It's a 282-page interactive study workbook that goes hand in hand with the CDs and the DVDs, and a lot of the information is on the DVDs is actually in some of the Baltimore building that we're going to go to this weekend. 17 CDs that go through a full entire coaching program of in-depth understanding the markets, all the different